So, you're in a matrix and you're awakening. You want to talk about it? You're navigating relationships. You're reflecting upon yourself. You're speaking to people. You're coming into these new truths. And also, you're being bombarded with things that have nothing to do with probably what you'd want to, what your deeper core desires to function, to focus on, so that you can grow, that you can experience happiness. You're in a space where we're being bombarded with many ways of how to chase that dollar, but we're really not speaking to what the dollar is. Sure, it's currency. Sure, it's energy, but very often do people speak to what is it to be a debt note? What is it to navigate with debt, in debt? Good debt, bad debt, but debt nonetheless. A lot of our journey, looking at the different areas of life activities, if we were to separate them, respect to Nearly Fuller Jr., life, liberty, right? This pursuit of happiness, education, entertainment, economics, labor, law, work, what do you do for work? Your sex, what are you getting into in the areas of sex? War, fighting, your health. See, we separate all these things, but if we're in a unified field, that means all of these things are really connected. Furthermore, if the field is unified, then of course it's a projection of us to give names. When we name something, we enclose it, we box it in a certain thing. It has to have parameters and attributes to be what it is. And so then it's to be the unnamed thing, to get to the thing that is not, but has potential to be. That's when we tap into power. So often what we see as the expression of power is really just that. It's the expression, the movement, the release of power, which isn't power itself. That's the afterthought. The real power comes from what actually generates the thing that comes into manifestation. So, you're in a matrix. What does that mean? Various people are awakening at different stages of the journey of the totality. But we argue about a lot of things. We're in a matrix. What does it mean? You leave a matrix, but you come into another matrix because you're in physical form. Your spirit, blended in, consubstantial, which means two substances, think about that, of different qualities merged together in the womb of whatever mother that you came through, still in the womb of a grander mother. And so we're having an experience of what it is to have those two opposing spirit and material things interacting with each other, and to navigate the pulls of the desires of one, right? The energy of one, bound for the journey of our life until we dissolve this container that we use to navigate this skinship of kinship with the stresses of the other. And so we fluctuate. We fluctuate in relationship. We fluctuate in our belief systems. Systems are given to us. We argue with each other as human beings. We complicate things that can be so simple because we're not willing to just chill in the simplicity, ultimately because of the fear of death. A death that isn't even what we believe it to be, right? So there's so many ways, even in these spiritual communities, because in truth, every community is a spiritual community. Every system contains a set of programming, which could be the beliefs. And then there's the opportunity to identify how to use a logic that enables you to properly look at what's being presented so that you can make decisions that are beneficial to you. And quite often, we've been guided within a system of many distortions to make distorted choices that lead us to outcomes that seem like they would be great for us, but that aren't. And so what does it require? Patience, the willingness to go slow. When do you need the willingness to go slow? Quite often when you're put in a position that all the pressures are trying to rush you. Because if you're really in tune with your own power, you know that you can slow anything down because time doesn't quite exist. But it is manifested. It is part of our journey here because that's what we use really to identify the movement of consciousness. Not that consciousness is going from one point to another, but what is consciousness witnessing in the continuation of eternity. So I'm just opening up the channel to share a download, but none of this is mine. Of course, there are things that I've read, and there are things that I know. There are things that have, been embodied in my journey of making what I would have considered mistakes in the past, but they were just choices merged with other people's choices in the cauldron of life, and then having the opportunity from time to time to pull back on the whole thing and to look and see what's going on. What resulted in this? What resulted in that? and to still not hold, that too loosely, because I'm still creating things that are going to result into something else. But some of those things, such as, I don't know, saving a little money here and there, but maybe not saving it in a bank, saving it somewhere else, identifying the difference between what I saved in the bank and what I saved in, my stash, so to say. That's one example. Or looking at how I navigated in a relationship in the past, and then looking at different choices when those same opportunities come, and being courageous enough to make a different choice that's more aligned to a truth that I discovered about myself, and doing it for me. A lot of times, so many of us are making choices in regards to relationship, based on people that we've surrounded ourselves with. An example could be you were navigating with someone, you were in the relationship with someone, but it's so public, and I've been there too. And in that public space, the relationship has an image. And so you try to continue to perpetuate the relationship in that space, but you lose sight of the deeper connection and the deeper communication between you and that person. So having gone through so many of those iterations, I decide, okay, first and foremost, I need to come to clarity with the person that I'm interacting with, the person who I'm deciding to do things with. I need to identify questions that can help us to see each other more clearly. They may be uncomfortable, but it's better than the hidden, the unspoken, because I've had, breakups, and really, as a man, learning how to articulate himself, his feelings, his emotions, his desires. One who can not only articulate them, but then reflect upon them, and then juxtapose that to, using the ability to anticipate and also previous experience. If I fulfill this desire, how does that affect everyone else? That's part of coming into maturity, right? Because then you have the opportunity, still empowered within yourself, to make a choice to maybe deny something in the moment, but really you're saying yes to something in the long run. And this, my ladies, my dear sisters, is a very important thing to look at as you're discerning certain men. Some of the choices that they would make, even for a dynamic that you're in with them for the long haul, may not be something you want right away. But truth be told, that lets you know that that's someone who can think far ahead and is willing to do the thing. Contrarily, or complementarily even, women, we're looking at you now, because what I see is the men are really consistently cultivating themselves. Imagine these brothers in Tulum, from on my end, is 5 years nonstop. Some of these guys 2.5 years straight every week. I'm holding 2-3 men's groups, men and women's groups as well. That's a lot of data and a lot of opportunity to grow, to present yourself in authenticity and a shift. And I'm seeing a great shift. In the everyday men's group, now we're speaking about things that may be spoken to in some of the groups that would proclaim themselves to be, high maka, like they're coming in with so much of a certain knowledge, but new knowledge is out about the old knowledge that so many of the groups may be functioning on that are also a farce. And so we can be, so far ahead of ourselves and really way behind in building the fundamentals. And then from that space, delude ourselves in the process of all the things that come up and not really touch what's necessary. So fundamentals are important. Being pragmatic is important. Having accountability. And so where I was bringing it to the women is, maybe the guys won't say anything, but there's a lot of immature things going on in the dynamics that maybe have never had the opportunity to be looked at. There's a lot of competition that goes on between our sisters as well. And there's a lot of posing and posturing that happens. I'm not necessarily calling out anyone here in Tulum. I've traveled, so it's all of the places. And I could even certainly be guilty of that. The thing is, we're talking about it in the men's group. And we're seeking to do something different. And the conversation that has come up in a lot of spaces is like, what's up with our sisters now? Before it used to be, what's up with the men? And we're wanting to bring everyone together, but I'm just speaking to it because the new conversation that even I've been inquiring before I ended up getting to speak with, say, Sabrina, and even Rose and some of the other women who've spoken to it, is the crone, that archetype. The complementary archetype to the crone would be the sage. This is the archetype that doesn't look like the thing that's so fancy and catches the eye. May even to some people look, old and curmudgeon. Curmudgeon is a description of actually behavior, not an exterior look, but like raisiny, right? Not the attractive maiden, but the weathered, experienced crone, who's the older woman. But what the crone has is a beauty that can be overlooked because the beauty of the crone, and it need not be the witch and the haggard, but someone who's attained multiple different stages in her life, is a wisdom, is a consideration, is a way of knowing how to move about things, and a maturity, and also an unselfishness. And I think that's the marked shift for you fellows who want to understand and dive into what it is to come into contact with the beauty of a woman who might be considered the crone, an archetype, or the later stage, is she's carrying sagacity. She has wisdom. She's moving about with a type of ease. And she's also open and able to help and pull not only her sisters, but the sons in and heal so many of the molestations that have happened by, within her field, creating the space for things to unfold as they need to, because she's not under any pressure to do something. So she becomes quite unselfish. And the same would be for the men coming into sagacity or wisdom, is that there's the ability to look at, and I'm open to being challenged on any of this, to look at what's needed, how to preserve, when to destroy, when to build, sustain these things, okay? But then the willingness to make choices that help with what you have, what you actually have. So that means you have to take an actual inventory of your budget. And sometimes you might stretch, but there's a way that it can be done with ease. Why? Because you've seen so many of the different cycles and spirals that have happened in life. And so for me, I'm really appreciating the journey towards maturity. I'm grateful for the gray hairs, even though you might see me at some point shave some of the beard off just for grooming. But the thing that's most important to groom within the men's groups, for me at this point, is wisdom, the ability to see with wise eyes, dina, chokmah, as we would say, also intelligence. And everyone can have so much intelligence, but how do you apply that intelligence so that it's not a hindrance, right? That's even being spoken to with AI. How is it that you take the learning at this point in your life? You could be 22. They're young sages, but life experience does count for something. How do you take the wisdom, the experience that has presented itself to you, that you've navigated through, that you're alive in, and pair that up to what you're experiencing in this moment, which might be a difficulty or an obstacle or even a beautiful thing, and then calculate, but not just calculate, receive, make a summation. Not just a summation, not just a summary. Look at it, take the information and integrate it into the next steps that you plan to take. So there's a scent of entrepreneurship, right? Risk-taking in your decision-making, but it's really looking at, what have I learned? What have I taken inventory of? What's coming up most likely again? And how can I take that information and make a good decision in this next quarter? So if you're navigating in the space of business, if you're navigating in the space of environmental cleanup, such as I was, or working with radioactive materials, working in construction, working in safety, health and safety, if you're working in bomb disposal, if you are working in philanthropy, working with the homeless, working in the medical industry, or alternative medicine industry, or holistic, practices, whether it be physical or not, you see, you may come to a point when you're entering into maturity where you start to see the common bond between all of them. So when I speak to then, even in the men's space, men and women's circles, the circle is called harmonizing duality. What does it mean? Well, it's speaking to the truth of what's already there. And so the harmonization is really shifting our perspective out of a distortion and aligning it to a coherent ability to view, not just with these eyes, but these, with this, and to speak from that truth of our connection to one another. That connection is a truth that supersedes this thing that we call the matrix. To bring it back, to speaking from the channel, right? And so what is it that you're here to do? I would ask that question often. And then check that question. If you're in the process of doing it, what would you expect to be happening for you? It may not look like everything that everyone else has said has to happen or what everyone's projecting. We're seeking after money and finances. That's important. It's important to be able to look. It's nice to not have to worry about paying, for my housing, meaning it's covered because I'm doing the work and I have clients and whatnot, and it's an ease. Then you can think of the finer things. But why not do that even if you're in turmoil? Why not challenge yourself to enjoy and to look at what you have in truth and to build a foundation of gratitude from a foundation of gratitude so that you can hold space for more of that, and also be economical with what you have. And so that's looking at what egos are alive within me. How do you navigate with them? I'm not saying destroy your ego. I'm saying let's just take inventory. What is it that I would like to experience in this life? What are my values? Then to find out your values, you also have to ask, what are the values of the people who came before me, who raised me? What are the values of the institutions that I've been a part of? Whether it's your educational institution, your career expression, the things that you like to do, your peers, and what you ingest. What do you ingest on Instagram? What do you ingest on Netflix? What are you ingesting on YouTube? See, we're in a period of time where you wake up and can be right to the phone. Even if you take 45 minutes, maybe you don't even look at your phone till 11, but you're going to look at it at some point. So we're always ingesting. And then maybe you held off on looking at it, and then now you're zipping through and taking in so much more. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. I'm just taking a minute on this Saturday to put something out there into the field that's, I'm not doing anything hokey to get attention. I'm just speaking from my journey, speaking from some truths, speaking at a point in time where many people are looking at the Matrix, and I just want to remind you that the Matrix is looking back at you. And we're in a co-creation, but a lot of times in this co-creation in this total recall experience that we're in, movie we're checking out, in this interesting visual simulacrum, terrarium, this Truman Show that we're a part of, we wake up and we fall asleep within the dream within the dream. We're part of the inception. We are the thing that has been part of conception. And also we can often be part of reflection that is a distortion that can create the deception. But that deception can also lead to, through the catalyst of some of the pains that come up, if you're seeking it, you putting hands on a greater truth. And so how much truth are you open to holding within your frame? Now that ties back into the Tantra, right? How much truth are you open to exploring? How many things are you open to dissolving in your life, realizing that they're not maybe the truth that you thought they were, and how can you make peace with that and have some acceptance in the gratitude for the experience that you had? Because some of you guys are just here to have an experience. And so that's where it's interesting to try not to judge, but you can judge on your way to discernment. And then with all that said, what do you do with it? What is the long-term thing? By long-term, I mean not 10, 20. I was having a good chat with a brother on the importance of having a 5-year plan, as he was sharing to me, or a 20-year plan. I have a 40-year plan, and I'm witnessing some of the things go down, but I also have an eternity plan that I go off of. And so when you have that recognition, then it can put things into perspective and bring you a lot of ease in your life. But it's not just having that plan, then really learning how to interpret the information that's being provided to us in this experience. And on top of that, how do you apply what you've interpreted? And how do you then gauge, your application of the interpretation of what's being provided to you by you? That's for you to answer. I'm figuring out how I'm doing it. Most of us in these spaces are holding space, and we're a part of a continuum. So I have answers to what I've experienced, and I'm open to those answers being recontextualized, and I'm just here to share. I'm going to be on Instagram sharing from the truth of me, and as I go deeper into that, then I want to no holds bar share in congruence with whatever I'm allowed to speak to. So I'm not trying to shame anything that's happening. That's not my position as an arbitrator and as one who gets to observe, but I'm in it with you. And so maybe I can speak to what I see, and I'm open to you sharing. As Real is open to you sharing your interpretation of what you're seeing, because the reality is somewhere that is none of those things and also all of it and everywhere in between, right? I'm in this body of not a black man, but a brown man, a melanated man, more melanated than most and less melanated than some others. And we're in a journey of the human. So the melanation is speaking to my hue. And I have a consciousness that is becoming aware and awakening and also falls asleep at times too. And so fortunately for me, I'm surrounded by some other people, whether in the space of masterminds or guides or mentors, family members, connection with ancestors who help to nudge me and wake me up. And the reason they wake me up at times is so that I can be awake to help wake other people up, or maybe even them at times. And so how often are you in that space? And I'm also open to the fact that what I think is awake can still be asleep. I might still be dreaming of a whole lifetime in the womb of a grandmother on my journey of expanding into the next body that I'm to inhabit that might be just too big for this realm energetically, but perfect in baby size for the next space. I offer that to you to consider. And also, I'm a real fan of not getting too far in the okie doke. Meaning, there's a lot of things, it's called woo-woo for a reason. And so what are the practical things that maybe we may be skipping on this day and this time to allow life to move smooth? Or for us to navigate life with the energies and the, solid, grounded strength, the robustness that's necessary to navigate the space and time, to keep the ship in shape for the ship that shows up. That's it. Questions. Find out the questions that you don't know. Tap in with me. Let's talk about it. If you're here in Tulum, I invite you to mentorship, which is, again, the consistent everyday men's group, but it's not actually every day, but also like, you don't have to be any kind of way to show up, even though some of the guys are pretty ripped and, they're excellent businessmen in the group, but it's not so much a marketing thing or where we're here showing off all of the stuff that we did and former accolades. We're just here together as men to share, to improve ourselves, to point out areas where we may be lacking in confidence, where we may be lacking in integrity. And it's a journey, which means you don't have to be any kind of perfect to show up. We need the imperfection and the perfection that you are to show up in authenticity. And then in that space, we can talk about it. And I'm very pleased with what I'm experiencing with the men. And I know it's a marathon, so it's just a little bit every day, a little bit every Wednesday. And wow, what I have seen shift. And then the next thing is that I think most men, and I think actually a majority, even though we're in these men's groups, there's still not the courage to speak to really what's going on. Because sometimes when you speak to what you see, so many things are triggered in the space and it can hurt so much, and the response is to run. I've experienced it within myself, even in relationship. And there's always going to be something, but you see, my commitment is to come back and face what needs to be faced. Now, if I face something that I've learned is, not aligned with the coherency that I've created, then of course in my sovereignty, I don't have to engage. But I'm also aware of the truth that I'm always going to be engaging as long as I'm alive and in this body, because of the true connection that exists between us. So that gives some freedom to circle back and to choose another. And it's not even circling back. You can spiral up into situations that are similar. You're never going to get the same situation twice. I'd love to hear what you guys think about time travel at that, but let it be informed. And all the answers and all the examples are already there in nature. So it's a great gift that we've been given all around us to simplify and to learn from if we but look. And often we're being guided to look in different directions. So fine, look in the different direction, but look back to what's around you. Go searching the world for everything you need, but don't forget about the home that you came from and what was provided for you. Similar to The Alchemist, you might find that the treasure was under the tree, but the real gift was the journey that you took to come into that awareness and awakening. Holy moly. Happy Saturday. I trust this finds you in a good space. This is a jewel, because there's many things that you can take in what I shared today and just go off into your exploration. So take what's needed, and whatever you don't need, it's okay. That's probably for someone else. Yeah? And I'm in the process of learning. I'm always a student in life. Definitely beginner's mindset. And there's some experiences that I have had, many actually. But I look at those experiences, things that I still need to integrate over the lifetime. So it's really at the end of this journey that maybe I'll get to do the proper recap. And I've had some situations which were, felt like that was it for me. And yet and still, and maybe it was. And I transitioned into this new experience. You can look at it like that. I'm here in Tulum, and I'll be traveling soon enough. So if you're in a space, as I start to list where I'm going, and you want me to drop in and help you, or just to hold space, you want to get a flavor of kind of the work that I do, I'm open, super confident, easy with it, and I like to do things that are inclusive. And also, order and structure is important. So if you invite me into your space, make sure everyone fall in line so that we can talk and get to it with what's needed. That's male or female. I'm not here to bicker with people. I'm not on some like other stuff. I'm clear on my purpose, and I'm clear on the unity. So I have space for the things that develop in between, but I can't develop your ability to act with dignity and respect. I can't develop, I can help hold a space for it, but develop the ability of human beings to act in a way that's tactful, that's not trashy, that isn't terroristic towards each other. And most of what we've been geared to do, at least over the last couple of 100 years, and now I'm taking it easy on us, have been things that take us away from actually being able to feel who we are as human beings, to treat each other with dignity, to not belittle each other, and to help us to grow into, to remember the full power of what we are as human beings in these bodies, and to walk in that space. I'm not doing that for anyone, okay? I'm willing to say I apologize as soon as I figure out something's off. I want to let you know, hey, I think I can be better in that space, so I'm very open to that. And also I'm open to speak up. Man, woman, on racism, not racism, these of course will be just my thoughts, but I'll speak them, I'll hear them out. Black, white, male, female, I'll let you know where I stand. So if the door's open for that, I'm open to hear where you stand, and of course I'm very, willing to share where I stand, and the test will be who can consider in truth, who's really looking at and from a space of maturity for the human, so that we can be the full human that we've come here to be, and maybe more than that, but not from a space of weakness that looks like privilege, or fragility in the face of, I guess we could say privilege too, but I'm speaking to the call of to come into this world, in this body, ask for something, and I want to answer that call. To come in this world in the space of male, female, whatever hue you're in, there's something that's required and asked of you to complete the puzzle for all of us, to look beyond yourself at your greater self, your other selves, and to help empower the process of our maturity and our best values. And some of you are here to fuck around and do ugly, so to say, and that's of course a matter of perspective, and to destroy and to make things difficult as well. So I honor you too. I'm gonna do my part, because what my part looks like is probably that exact thing to you. And in the end, we really understand what we are to each other. So if you're able to pick up on that as early as you can in life, or at any point during this life, then kudos to you and me and us. And in the meantime, we can operate in delusion and be in denial of essential truths, and then blame each other for things, or we can own up to all the parts that we've played. And that's the hardest thing for some of the most weakest of us. And that's been even for myself, and my weakest point is to really own up to my part in the whole and my responsibility, and to take it by the horns, so to say, or by the top of the head, the temple, the cheeks, and lovingly, caringly, with strength and courage, shift what has been done before, because that's what we're here to do. So if you're in the body of a powerful, supportive white woman, well, take that opportunity with the power that you've been given and some of the power that you haven't exercised to own up to what it has been, and then create a better life for those around you. You don't have to do the shit that's been done before. And you can also own up. It's not, I don't need an apology from anyone, but we can look at historically what's been done and who's been supporting whatever. Now I say the same thing for black men, black women, brown, melanated, because now we're all melanated in those spaces. It's just a difference of concentration of that melanin. We're all in the human experience. So I called out, I'm calling all of us out, including myself, and I'm calling none of us out at the same time, because we're all one thing. But my request is, if you're open to navigate from that space of really, sincerely, working together to come into that knowing of unity, and to look at self and to not run away, and to strive for nobility and dignity in our communication and our understanding, some humility, and some order and decorum that leads to a positive, beneficial interaction from now on and into the future, then definitely I want to connect with you. I want to support you. I want to do the things I can hold space for you, and vice versa, because then we get to build trust, then we get to heal and dissolve things that have come from a place of that feeling of betrayal. It's a big thing. It shows up in all the spaces, and it can show up so quickly. We can navigate and understand our traumas and not be bound by them. We can come out of so many of the bondages that we're not even aware of, and that we yet continue to perpetuate in all of the spaces and all of the hues of human. This is your chance right now. This is your time where you're alive and you have all this power where you can access the energies of the ancestors, of the unseen, of the seen, and put it into play. Do it. There are some wise people among you, various different ages. Support them. I'm going to call it now. There's some things I got to do today, which one of them includes rest. But this is what I felt to share. Not all the shares will be like this, but yet all of them will be like this. If you look at everything I've shared from the get-go, sure, I'm having a good time in Thailand, beginning with my Instagram. Oh, now I'm starting to awaken. I'm having these experiences in Bali and in, Cambodia, in Africa, which would be specifically Gabon, in Ethiopia, in SA, and many spaces in between, in the United States, the divided states, as we could call it, and also in Mexico, right? In Hawaii, beautiful Hawaii. In Palau, in Guam, in the Philippines, in all these spaces in between, where you get to see, in Dubai, in Morocco, where you get to see all of what we thought divided us and the undercurrent of what really unites us. And so why don't we just boil it down to that? I think it'll help and it'll simplify life. Let's get down to the common denominator. I could have made this a 2-minute post, but I don't do that too often. Crunch what I'm sharing. Let's see what happens with this share. And of course it's here, so take advantage. There's my aloha. This is my mana, my ike for today. Just the wisdom of my experience and your experience. My history, it's been said, is everything that happened before now in this moment, because I'm a part of all those things, which means my history is your history. So we can look at it. Your her story is my her story. So we should take a look at it. And we can be informed by it, but we don't have to be bound by it. And so how free are you really wanting to be in this life? What does it look like to you? Where do you feel bound? Where are you ready to untether that thing, that soul? Let's talk about it. Fellas, if you need help, you need assistance, we've got the next Tri-Murdy journey in the Manbodiment movement, BSMD, the movement. I'm excited for that. And, you reach out to me if you want to know what that's about. I'm helping men, I'm navigating, I'm supporting them with family, with relationship, with somewhat finances. I'm not the super financial guru, but the things that I work on can be directly applied to finances, and then I'm already seeing the benefits. And also, just know, as you begin to make something smoother, you will always have some friction. And so we want to build the robustness so that you get to the point that whatever shows up, you remember that you're in a marathon. You remember that you're in the body of something that's built for the human experience. And you can grow, you can shift, you can morph, you can take it, you can handle it. Whatever goes on, I can handle it at this point. The other thing that'll happen as I transition into the next opportunity to remember that I can handle it. So, do you need help getting a handle on what you felt you couldn't handle so that you can finally take hold of the fact that you can handle it? Reach out for the men. Ladies, you can connect with me at Harmonizing Duality. That's pretty much it, and I mean, if you're already a close friend in my circle, that's fine. If you're looking for some other women to navigate with, I have many folks that I can recommend, but they'll be on my page. So just scroll through, see what's relevant. This information is beneficial for you too, and also maybe help you to understand the men in your life. The key to us working in a beautiful dynamic is actually seeking a sincere understanding, giving each other pace and space, which is part of pace, right? Or the other way around. Room to grow and to identify, to understand the cycles, the spirals, and kind of the timing, like any farmer, of the natural progression and periods, the periodicity, the way something shows up, the frequency. of the journey of expansion. And that's something that we get to take with us. And I know for those of you who begin to work with that, whether it's in finances, stock market, housing, rearing children, dynamics with dating, loving, you see that it's all tied together, right? Interesting. It's all tied together. All right. Have a good day. Aloha. Shoots.